F-Zero is back in the form of F-Zero 99, which you can now play as part of your Nintendo Switch online subscription. We're taking a look on Nintendo Switch, obviously. We cover a new game every single week, so if you end up enjoying the video, do consider subscribing. We're going pretty fast, but let's be real, this is the only way to let you know if F-Zero 99 is worth your time. I'm hesitant to call this a battle royale. It's more so just a massive race with a metric ton of players, and Nintendo has managed to make a racing game where you almost never win a blast. The game is nice and easy to you in with some AI opponents to teach you the basics before you go against real people who are somehow always better than me. If you still need some practice though, there is a mode that drops you in on a track alone so you can learn the turns. At a base level, F-Zero 99 feels excellent to play. There are 4 vehicles to choose from, each with different handling, and once the race begins, you're equipped with a handful of moves. Naturally, you have your standard acceleration and tighter turning, but you can also spin into opponents to charge up your Skyway meter, which allows you to race over opponents for a short while. You can also boost, but this uses up your most valuable resource. See this bar? If it becomes empty, be it from overboosting or hitting the walls or other players too much, then you are out. You can recharge this meter by going into these charge areas each lap, or by scoring a KO on an opponent. In order to win, you need to be aggressive and smart. Games like this always lose a bit of luster though. You only ever have a 1% chance of winning, so naturally, winning is pretty rare. This is where the rivals system comes in. At the start of a race, you'll be given 4 rivals of a similar skill to you. Beat these guys and your rank goes up. Lose to them and your rank goes down. This is an excellent inclusion because even if you barely scrape it to the top 50, there's a chance that you'll have achieved a small victory over your set of rivals. If you're after a bit more than the standard races, there's team battles, Grand Prix, and even a mode that focuses on the harder courses available. These are on a 10-minute rotation, so there's always a new bonus mode to play, but it might not always be the one you want. The launch track selection is excellent, but you'll only ever play Mute City because that's all anyone votes for. The only one I dislike is Deathwind. Everything else here is really well designed, and I'm always excited for that extra beginning portion, which makes sure everyone begins on equal footing. The cherry on top are the extra challenges to unlock skins for your vehicles and calling cards. I could not win a race in this game to save my life, but I've had an absolute blast every single time I've hopped on because it always feels like I'm working to something or winning against my rivals. Nintendo have done an absolutely excellent job with this gameplay package. It's pure chaos, but the simple mechanics make 99 players manageable, and the rival system gives you something to strive for outside of that coveted first place. I hop on for 10 minutes, only to look up and find that an hour has passed, and that's the mark of gameplay that deserves the full 5 out of 5. This is a gorgeous little game, but there are some issues when it comes to art direction mixing with gameplay. Let's start with that base look though. This is F-Zero in glorious HD. Each track features a unique environment with an excellent OST to boot. The track selection at launch is a little small, but there are plans to add more tracks, and hopefully more visual differentiation will come with that. Everything is also animated wonderfully, from these little rings that rise up when you're charging to the little lines that you get when you spin, just to name a few. Most of the art direction here works with the gameplay too. It's always clear where you can drive, what are off-road areas, and if other players are using the Skyway above you. This is extra impressive as F-Zero is a very fast game, and it's paramount that a player gets all of the information they need quickly so that they can make a plan. There are some issues though. There's a lot of visual jank on the roads due to how fast the game is moving, and once you notice it, you will not be able to unsee it. It hurts the visual polish of the game in a weird way. It makes you feel faster, but the game overall looks worse. If you find yourself in the middle of the pack of racers, you're also going to have a nightmare in terms of seeing and utilising all of the information present. It is just visual chaos, and I had plenty of races where I'd get bounced to the back of the pack because it just wasn't possible to see what half a dozen other racers were about to do. There's also the issue of repetitiveness. This will get better with more content being added, but you will be hearing the same track OSTs and looking at Mute City far too much. Menus and UI are wonderfully stylized, but always clear to navigate. I absolutely adore the lobby screen where everyone queues up in their custom cars, and having track layouts on the map voting screen is genius for newer players who may not know what they're voting for. I also need to commend the sound design here. Everything feels fast and powerful, from boosting to charging up to hopping up to the Skyway, and even crashing into walls. Overall, the art direction present here is very good. F-Zero looks and sounds great, but a few aspects do knock a point off due to their effect on the moment-to-moment gameplay. F-Zero 99 gets a respectable 4 out of 5 for art direction. F-Zero 99 has no traditional narrative, and that works for this type of game. It's pure gameplay above all else, and knowing the deep Big Blue lore doesn't affect how much fun you'll be having in the slightest. Fortunately, you'll have plenty of emergent gameplay stories to tell your friends, although it'll mostly be variations of gaining massive leads and suffering massive losses. There's not a lot of variety here, but there is something. This section rounds out pretty quickly. No narrative is the right choice for the game, and you'll come away with some fun memories and stories to tell, but none of this can exceed a 2 out of 5. F-Zero 99 is a solid content offering and bug-free, but there is a big technical issue with the game. Nintendo's netcode still sucks. I had plenty of races where players were just bouncing around because the game is constantly playing catch up. It's not catastrophic, but it is something to be aware of. Content wise, we're getting half a dozen tracks at launch, playable with 4 vehicles across the standard races, team battles and Grand Prix. There's also the practice mode and workshop, which houses all of your customization options. There's a good amount of content here, but I'm glad we'll be seeing more tracks before this selection gets repetitive. Settings are dire. You can enable rumble and minimap, and that's it. You can view controls and game tips, but you cannot change anything about this game. No audio settings, no control adjustments, nothing for accessibility, no anything. The base controls are decently comfortable, but if you have any issues with this game in a technical sense, you cannot do anything about it. Overall, F-Zero 99 feels like a complete content package, even though there is more to come, and it runs very well. The only big gripe is the minimal settings selection, and that leaves F-Zero 99 with a 3 out of 5 for specs. Each race in F-Zero 99 will take you around 5 minutes at a maximum. Mini Prix has 3 races together and Grand Prix is 5 races together, so you can hop on and have absolutely any experience in this game within 30 minutes. It's super easy to fit F-Zero 99 into any amount of free time you might have. My only commitment gripe is that bonus modes are on a rotation. The time limit here isn't super long, so your favourite mode will come back around, but at the same time, if you really love team battles, for example, you can only play them every so often. Grand Prix is also locked to a certain time and behind earnable tickets. This all just feels unneeded. I could understand it in a dying game where matchmaking needs as few player pools as possible, but not right at launch. None of my races felt wasted, thanks to a combination of the rival system and challenges for customization items. You're progressing something with every single race, regardless of if you win or lose, and it did feel like I was getting better. You will be terrible at F-Zero the first time you play, but the time you put in is rewarded back in terms of improving your skill. Hard drive footprint is also nice and small at 1GB. This will comfortably fit onto your Switch's hard drive, and is not a long download for those with slow internet. All in all, I'm mostly happy here, save for the time-gated extra modes. F-Zero 99 gets a 4 out of 5 on our commitment scale. F-Zero 99 is worth your time. It's absolutely chaotic fun, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's less Battle Royale remix and more racing switch up, and I'm excited to see how it progresses with new modes and new tracks, because there is a lot of potential on what is already an excellent foundation.